Hey guys, welcome back. We're looking at rounding fractions today, and specifically we're wanting to round to benchmark fractions, meaning 1/2. Other benchmark fractions are 1/4, 3/4, and things like that, the very super common fractions. But today we're going to round to the nearest half. So that means we could round to a whole number because a whole number happens every other half, right? But we want to focus on rounding fractions to the nearest half. Let's look right here at this concept right here. Round down. If the numerator is much smaller than the denominator, round the fraction down to 0. Well, if we look here, I only have 1 out of 10, 1/10 of this whole shaded in. I know that half of it would be 5/10, so all of that would be shaded in, but that's a lot closer to having nothing shaded in than to having the half of it shaded in. So we would round this one to 0. Looking at the second one, round to 1/2. If the numerator is about half of the denominator, round the fraction to 1/2. So here, 6/10, we have 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 6 shaded out of the 10. Well, I know half of the 10 of the full thing would be 5/10. Well, 6/10 is awfully close to 5/10. It's a lot closer to 5/10 than it is to 10/10 or to 0/10. So we would round 6/10 to 1/2. Looking here, if the numerator is almost as large as the denominator, round the fraction up to 1. So we round up. Here we have 10 pieces to create our whole, and we have 9 of those shaded in. Well, one whole would be 10/10. That would be our whole. So here we're very close, having 9/10. We already know from our last problem that half is 5/10. So 9/10 would be a lot closer to 10/10. Let's go ahead and do some problems. Round to the nearest half. We're going to round 5/6. Here I have a number line that starts at 0 and ends at 1. And we want to make sure that we go ahead and break this apart into how many pieces? You guessed it, we're going to break this apart into 6 pieces to be able to plot our 5/6. So it's not going to be perfect, but I'm going to try my best. I'm going to call that my half, which is also the same as 3/6. 3/6. Okay, and then I'm going to break that apart into thirds there, but really these are 6. So this is 1/6, 2/6. We have 3/6, 4/6, and 5/6. So let's go ahead and plot a point on that 5/6. Is this point closer to 1, which is called 6/6, 1/2, or 3/6, or 0, meaning 0/6? Well, I see that there's no tick marks in between these two, but there is one in between 5/6 and 1/2. So I'm going to round 5/6 to up to 1 whole. I'm going to say it's about or approximately using these symbols, about 1 whole. Let's look at this one. Round to the nearest half. We're going to go ahead and plot 1/5. How many pieces am I going to break up my whole 0 to 1 up into? We should be breaking it up into 5 pieces. So I'm going to do my best. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 pieces. 1/5 is going to go right here. Let's see. If I wanted to put half would go right about here, right? That's my 1/2 mark. And I know 1 whole would be the 5/5. So what is this closest to? When we're rounding, we're looking at what it's closest to. Is it closest to 0? Is it closest to 1/2? Or is it closest to 5/5? Well, I see here I just go a distance of 1/5. Here I go a distance of 1/5 and a little more. So I'm going to round this one down to 0. I'm going to round it down to 0. Notice again how this said if the numbers are close, we round up, which is what we did. Super duper close, there's only one away. If they're super far away, then we're going to round down to 0. And sometimes if they're close, like if this one had been 4/6, I would have wanted to round to 1/2. Or if it had been 2/6, I would have wanted to round to 1/2. So if it's close, we round differently. If this had been 2/5, I would have rounded to 1/2 because that is so close. Okay, now we're going to build this number line completely on our own. Round to the nearest half, 2 3/5. What whole numbers is this fraction or mixed number between? What two whole numbers? Well, it's bigger than 2. It's bigger than 2, so I know it's not between 1 and 2. So I'm going to put it between 2 and 3. We're going to write it between 2 and 3. How many pieces am I going to break this up into? I'm going to break this up into 5 pieces. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and we want to round to the nearest half. And half, again, we're going to put right here, but this is going to be our 2 1/2. Okay, well, here is, I'm going to make that really big so I don't get confused with my fifths. Make it really big so I don't get it confused. 1/5, 2/5, 3/5. This is our 2 3/5. What would you round that one to? Well, let's see, 2 3/5 is a lot closer to that 1/2 than this one, which could be 2 5/5. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and round it and make that 2 1/2. 2 1/2 is what it's closest to. Let's go ahead and do some problem set problems. 1/8, so I'm going to go ahead and break this up into 8. There's 4, so I have to go in between that. Here's my 8. And 1/8 is over here. So what would we round that one to? That one's kind of obvious. We're going to round that one to 0 because we're rounding to 0, 1/2, or 1 using the number line if needed. 5/9, I'm going to use the number line just because I think it's easier for me. 5/9, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 5/9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so my half is going to be about here. That's my halfway point. So what would we round that one to? Well, I'm going to round that to half. Also, if you need some help, half of 9 is 4 1/2. That's half of our 9, right? So 4 1/2 is pretty close to 5. Here we have 8 again, so we're going to be a bit more strategic with our even numbers, breaking it apart because we can. And we have 8 8s here, so we have 7 8s here. I'm going to round that to 1 whole. 3/7. What's half of 7? Half of 7 is 3 1/2 sevenths. Well, 3/7 is really close to 3 1/2, so I know that that's going to be close to 1/2. Let's look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3 would be here, and my 1/2 is here. So again, it's really close to that 1/2. 5/11, half of 11 is 5.5. So that's really close, so I know it's going to round to 1/2, but we're going to go ahead and do the work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and my half is right here, so I see that it's closest to that half. This one we're going to start at 1 and end at 2 because this fraction is between those two. Break it up into 8. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eighths. This is our halfway point, so we're going to round that to 1 and 1/2. Okay, let's look. A bike path is 6 3/4 miles long. What whole number is closest to 6 3/4? That's a tricky one. What whole number? Are we rounding to halves anymore? No, we're not. So if I set this up, and I set it up as 6 and 7, this is 6 1/2, this is 6 1/4, this is 6 3/4, which one is it closest to? It's closest to 7. 6 3/4 is closest to 7. Peter has read about 12/15 of his book. It says about, right? He has read about half of his book, or almost all of his book. So which is it? Has he read about half, or has he read almost all of it? Well, half of 15. Let's see, if I took 15 and I divided it by 2 to get what half is, which is what we did over here, I'd end up with 7 1/2. 7 1/2 is half of 15. This fraction here, even though it looks crazy to us, is half of 15. Is this closer to 7 1/2? Is 12 closer to 7 1/2? Or is 12 closer to 15 15ths? Well, let's see. To get from 12 to 15, we would go 13, 14, 15. Here we'd go 11, 10, 9, 1, 2, 3, 1,